If you are an introvert service provider and you're selling a service of 1K plus and selling feels awkward or icky to you, then stick around and watch this video because it's going to be really helpful. Because if selling does feel awkward, that's going to have big consequences for your business, right? Because first of all, you're going to avoid doing it as much as you should. So that's going to have an impact on the number of clients you're able to enroll to your service. And then secondly, when you do sell, because of that awkwardness, because of that icky feeling, of course, you're not going to sell as effectively as you could. So what can you do about it? Well, before I dive in, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Colette Broomhead. I'm a business coach and I work with introvert service providers who want to sell a 1K plus service. So selling. First of all, let's talk about why it feels so icky, because this isn't uncommon, right? Lots of people find selling really awkward, really uncomfortable. So what is it about selling that does this to us and that turns us into these kind of nervous wrecks? Well, I think there are kind of three key things that might be going on here. And I'd love to know, let me know in the comments if any of these resonate with you. So the first thing that I come across a lot is this idea that selling is in some way unethical. Whether that's, there's a sense that selling is greedy, pushy, manipulative, sleazy. Often when we hear that the term sales, we conjure up this image of the kind of sleazy car salesman or the guy with the watches in his coat and all of this kind of stuff. We don't necessarily have very good connotations with selling, right? It doesn't conjure up particularly positive imagery in general. So that's one thing that I think can often get in our heads and make us feel uncomfortable about selling, especially, if you're an ethical business owner, you want to lead with values, then, there can feel like there's a misalignment there somewhere. The second thing that I hear people say an awful lot is, I'm not a natural salesperson. Again, let me know if you have ever said this or thought this. It's really common. And as soon as you kind of get that into your head, this idea of like, well, I'm just not good at this. This isn't part of my skill set. This isn't part of my personality even. I think sometimes that term natural salesperson almost suggests that we kind of think of selling as a personality trait rather than a skill. So that's another thing that can really get in our heads. If we're telling, whenever you tell yourself you're not good at something, of course, that's going to actually have a negative impact on your overall performance. And then the third thing that I think can really make us feel awkward and uncomfortable about selling is that you hear everywhere that people don't like to be sold to. We see being sold to as an unpleasant, unwelcome experience. You think about the people coming to the door and, you're not wanting, being a pain, being a nuisance, perhaps cold calling. These days, there's a lot of cold messaging and all of these things are sort of seen and talked about as a bit of a pain, a bit of a nuisance, something that we have to put up with. Either way, not particularly good. So of course, as someone about to embark on selling, that's going to make you feel really uncomfortable, like, oh god, I've got to go and do this thing that everyone hates. How are people going to feel about me? And so we're kind of that there's all the implications there about we don't want to be a nuisance, we don't want to be a pain, we don't want people to think bad things about us. So those are three core things I think can really, and if you mix those things up, you've got a real kind of boiling pot of kind of mindset stuff going on there that is bound to make you feel really out of place and really uncomfortable every time you have to sell. So what can we do about this? Because as I suggested at the start of this video, selling is pretty key if you want to be enrolling consistent clients to your service. So you need to find a way to sell without that ickiness, to sell without feeling awkward, and to sell in a way that kind of feels aligned with you. So let me talk you through how you can do that. So essentially, I'm going to address each of those 3 points, right? So let's go back to that first one, that idea that selling is unethical. And I want to help you reframe that because, of course, selling isn't unethical. And I think where we get this confused is that certain sales practices are unethical. And of course, we want to avoid those practices. But selling in and of itself is not unethical. In fact, I want to reframe it for you so that you can see it for what it is, which is service. So let's go through your marketing journey. And essentially, if you are doing marketing well, you are attracting people into your audience who are ideal clients. And what makes them ideal clients is that they need and want the service that you provide. Okay, so you have this audience of people who need and want the service that you provide. Okay, so to sell them that service, to let them know about that service, I feel like I'm using the word service an awful lot, but that is an act of service. Okay, that is not an unethical act. It's not pushy. It's not manipulative. Again, certain sales tactics can be those things, but I'm assuming that you, as an ethical business owner, is someone who's going to avoid those kind of sales tactics. And selling in itself is not unethical. When you sell ethically, when you sell from a values-led place, when you are selling a service that people need and want, that is in itself an act of service. So I hope that helps to reframe that idea of selling being unethical. Let's now address this idea of not being a natural salesperson. So I hear this an awful lot. And again, I just want to reframe this for you. Sales and selling is not a personality trait. It's not something that anyone is born able to do, right? Selling is a skill in the same way that learning a new language is a skill, that learning a musical instrument is a skill, and so on. This is something that you can learn. And with practice, with repetition, it becomes easier and it becomes less uncomfortable. Anytime you try any new skill that you haven't really done before, it does feel uncomfortable. It feels a bit awkward. It feels difficult. And that is, of course, going to be the same for selling. Okay, so just because it starts off by feeling a bit awkward and uncomfortable doesn't mean to say that this is something you can never be good at and never feel comfortable with. Practice, learn, repeat, and you will get more comfortable. So that's the second point. I hope there I've helped you kind of address that as well. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Have you had any light bulb moments? And then let me talk about the third one. So the third one is people don't like to be sold to. So I'm going to circle back to that first point there and the point I was making there, which kind of rings true here as well. People don't like to be sold to when they're being sold something they don't want and or by someone they don't know, like, and trust. Okay, hence a complete stranger coming to your door, selling you some random crap that you don't need. That feels like a nuisance. You're there kind of like, looking at your watch, trying to get away because you don't want the thing, you don't know who this person is. Yeah, not a pleasurable experience particularly. However, if you're being sold something that you do really want and that you're excited to invest in by someone who you already know, like, and trust, that's a whole other experience. And actually, that can be a really exciting and pleasurable experience. And this is what we're trying to create for our audiences, for our potential clients, right? When you are planning your marketing, for me, the real job of marketing is to make it as easy as possible for someone to say yes to you. And that means selling them something that they need and want and facilitating that kind of trust building connection process so that they feel like they know you, like you, and trust you enough to feel safe saying yes. And not just safe, to feel excited saying yes. So those are the kind of core things I think will really help you to reframe that kind of awkward, icky feeling that comes with selling into something that can actually feel really good, really fun, and like an act of service instead of the opposite. So I hope that's been helpful. If it has, do give this video a like. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. It really does make my day. As you can see, I'm growing this channel, so every little like and comment and subscribe absolutely lights me up. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do that as well, especially if you found this helpful. I'm posting every day, Monday to Friday, so you can come back for lots more information on filling your service. And I shall see you again soon. Take care.